Hello everyone, welcome to a new video of my analysis of the Tamron SP 150 to 600mm f5 to 6.3 DIVC USD G2 lens. So we've got some real world example pictures here I want you to look at. Test charts are all well and good, but sometimes looking at some real world examples gives you a better idea what this lens can achieve. I do want to make you aware of something though. This lens originally wasn't compatible with the EOS R, and that will also apply for the R6 and R5 cameras. Now Tamron came out with not long ago with a firmware update which makes this lens compatible. However, as you may have seen in my previous tests, I do have multiple videos that I've recently uploaded. Focused on mirrorless cameras are quite slow with this lens, and I have been comparing this to the Sigma Contemporary 150 to 600, and what I can say is the focus on the Contemporary is significantly faster than the Tamron lens, and that's probably got something to do with technology. In terms of Sigma's probably reverse engineered the Canon cameras better than say Tamron has. So because of that fact, you may prefer to go for one of the Sigma lenses because it will work better with the new RF mounted cameras. So even with the adapter, it does appear that Sigma are doing a better job than Tamron is. So just wanted to make that point. When it comes to normal digital SLRs, such as the 7D Mark II, 90D, 5D Mark III, 5D Mark IV, I don't think there's going to be much of a difference in focusing. There's a slight edge to the Sigma, but ultimately I think you're going to be happy with either on the older cameras. But on the new mirrorless ones, I think you're going to be wanting to go for a Sigma one. But I'll do an analysis on both at some point regarding real world images, but for the time being this video is all about the Tamron. So let's have a look at some images so you can get to see real world examples. So we've got my bear here. We just want to have a look at the sharpness. So we just want to go into there at 100%. As you can see, we've got fine detail. The eye where we've got some dust particles seems to be well rendered. I think it's nice and sharp. It's not perfectly tack sharp, but you know, you're not spending thousands and thousands, are you? For a sub £1,000 lens, we're getting good detail, and I think you'll be happy with that. So we've got a stone statue here on the Tamron lens. Let's zoom in at 100%. Looking at the results, it does seem a bit on the soft side. But saying that, if you upscale the 100 to 400 Mark II L lens, Canon lens with the 1.4, you'll get a similar sort of result. And the same being true of the Sigma. So I think while there might be slight differences in sharpness, very minor differences, I think either of those three will suffice for your requirements. So don't be too bogged up on sharpness, because you get good contrast from all of them as well. So let's move to the next image. So I've got my duck model here next to a wall. I wanted to talk to you about compression of the image. On telephoto lenses, it compresses the background greatly. So it's not always necessary to actually have a 2.8 apertured lens. The theory is with a 2.8 apertured lens, it blows out the background, meaning it isolates your subject. But saying that, these telephoto lenses can achieve the same sort of effect by compressing the background, because the wall behind that duck is only probably about 10 centimeters behind it, and you can't really make out of the stone wall behind the duck. So it's doing a good job in terms of compressing the background and giving us a good image. So let's have a look at another image here. So we've got a bird here that's on one of my statues outside. Obviously the idea is when you crop in, you soften your image quite a bit, because you're using 30 megapixels on the EOS R full frame camera that we're testing this on, and it's always best to avoid cropping whenever possible, because when you crop in, you lose detail, you lose some megapixels, and ultimately you lose sharpness. So try and not cropping whenever possible, because a good sign of a good photographer is you don't need to crop. If you're a good photographer, you know what you've got, and you need patience and time and effort to put into your photography to be able to achieve sharp results. So don't get too bogged down in cropping stuff, because sometimes it can make a good image terrible. You know, let's zoom out and let me just give you an example. Look, that's fine. You don't need to crop in more, and it looks sharp now because we haven't zoomed all the way in and cropped the hell out of it. So let's have a look at another image. So we're about 3 meters away here. Minimum focus on this lens is 2.2 meters. You can decrease that using extension tubes if you want to. So, you know, sometimes you don't always need to rely on minimum focus of a particular lens. You can reduce that by using some extension tubes. But if we zoom in a little bit there, at 66%, I think it's more than adequate. Nice detail, sharp, no problem there. So let's move on to the next image. I actually was focusing on this area here. So we do have a little minor adjustment we need to adjust with the focus. So some micro adjustments may be required. But I'd only say it's about -1. So this can easily be corrected by either adjusting the focus on the Tamron tap, or you can do it in camera as well. And there's loads of people on YouTube that can tell you how to do that, but sometimes it's not always necessary. I've not gone to the trouble of micro adjusting these lenses. I didn't see the need to, because we're testing sharpness and autofocus speed. So ultimately that's what we're focusing on. But we're getting good detail. I like the crispness, good composition here. Also contrast is really nice as well. And it's more than adequate for most people's needs. It's only us photographers that are critical when we're looking at lenses. Most people probably wouldn't even notice. Let's have a look at another image. Okay, this is f6.3. So we've got a Christmas tree in the background with some lights. I wanted to show the highlights, how it sort of fades into the background when we are focusing on something quite close. Unfortunately, we are getting this onion ring effect here, but I did notice something that changed that, but I'll mention that in a minute. I wanted to look at the detail that you're getting out of this lens. Now you can see the print detail here when we look at the label here, and you can see we're getting some good detail there. I did notice though, on the Sigma lens, I found it to be a little bit crisper. So it does appear in my eyes anyway that the Sigma lens, or the contemporary, is a little bit sharper than the Tamron G2, despite what many YouTubers on YouTube claim when they've said they've done tests looking at images of buildings, but how they actually zoomed in and looked at definition of patterns. Patterns is a good way of determining how sharp a lens is, and I don't think they've done that. That's why I wanted to look at detail in patterns, as well as my lens test charts that I've looked at. There's patterns on those as well that you should be able to see if the lens is sharp enough. But I think we're getting good detail there at 200%. So I don't think this lens is going to let you down in the image sharpness department. So when I stop the lens down to f8, you can see what happened there. The onion ring effect in the corner has changed to a nice rounded circle. That's a good result at f8, and I thought, that's interesting, I did not expect that. Not sure what's going off there, but it's nice to see that there was an improvement by stopping it down to f8. Incidentally, on this particular lens, I did find that stopping it down to f16 improved it a lot better than, say, if I stopped down the Sigma lens to f8, I got a good result. But if I stopped the Tamron lens to f16, I got a similar result. So it does seem to me that the Tamron isn't quite as good when you stop it down by one stop as the Sigma is. So let's have a look at another image. So we've got the Starship Enterprise from Star Trek here. I did this test about 5 years ago when I compared the Sigma Contemporary, the Sport lens, and the Tamron G1 lens. I was the first person on YouTube to do that before people started copying me, which was a bit annoying. It's like, can't you get your own ideas? So in that test I looked at sharpness and I found those lenses quite sharp. The Tamron was a bit softer in the corners, but now we've got the G2 lens and we can have a look at sharpness there, and I think it's giving us good detail. I really like that. While we got minuteness of focus, it's only about 1 centimetre there, but saying that, you're going to get good results whichever lens you pick up. In hindsight, in retrospect, I just think all these three lenses that I'm quoting, the Sigma Contemporary, say the Sport for example, the Canon 100-400 Mark IIL lens with a 1.4 extender on, this Tamron G2 lens, I suppose to a lesser extent even the G1 lens previous to the previous lens to this, I think all of them can give you reasonably good results. Remember, you're only spending just under £1,000 for these lenses, a bit more in the Sigma Sports version clearly, but you know, I think for the money these lenses are performing well. So let's have a look at another image. So again, I wanted to show you an idea, a good representation of the minuteness of focus and what happens to things behind it and in front of it. You see, if I was to do this shot, because this is a f/16, it would probably bring this portion into focus a little bit better, but it would still blow out everything else like it has done. So this is the problem with these super telephoto lenses. If you're wanting great depth of field, you're going to have to consider using a different type of lens. A wide angle lens or something like that will achieve a better result in obtaining things in focus. Telephoto lenses just compress things to the max, to the hell out of everything. So if you want subject isolation, telephoto zoom lenses or prime lenses are the way to go. But if you're wanting something that can give you more depth of field, more things in focus from the front to the back, that's what depth of field means, you're going to be wanting to choose a different type of lens. A recommendation would be maybe I don't know, 100mm macro lens would probably be better than say something in the region of 600mm, definitely. Moving on to another example. So here we have 600mm. I just wanted to give you an idea on what's in focus, but it does seem to me Tamron has an issue with decentered lenses, where one side of the frame is sharper than the other, and this is normally indicative of the issue of decentered lenses, you know. So it doesn't even matter, even if you calibrate the hell out of it and try and optimize the focus using the tapping console that Tamron sell, it sometimes can't resolve that decentered issue. Now, there was a YouTuber who made a video about I think it was along the lines of, my Tamron lens is terrible, and she sent it into Tamron and they couldn't correct it, and they sent her another one that did the same thing and it just wouldn't give her sharp images. And I believe this is the problem that she was having, a decentered lens from Tamron, and she must have got two of them basically, where one side is softer than the other. So unfortunately it does seem to me that Tamron does have an issue with quality control in that regards. Now, I did try and reach out to Tamron to ask them, can they possibly give me some feedback on the focus speed issue on the mirrorless cameras, and that was 2 weeks ago and I hadn't had a response, so not the greatest of customer service. My experiences with Sigma, on the other hand, has been really good customer service. When I had an issue with a lens that needed the rear contact blocks replacing and a clean to be, a full service needed to be done on all elements, they did a really good job, kept me informed, replied to my emails on a regular basis. Great customer service. Can't highly recommend Sigma highly enough when it comes to their customer service. So unfortunately Tamron's customer service is a bit lacking. Let's look at another image. So this is at 500mm at f8. Similar image to that 600mm, just obviously 500. Got it getting good detail, good compression and good bokeh in the background. I do like it. It's quite smooth. Then I did the same image at f16 and boom. So we got a bit more in focus in the background because obviously we've got a Christmas tree in the background. But this area that was quite soft has become a lot more in focus. So as I was saying before, I do think at f16 this lens is doing a lot better than it does at f8. So let's move on to another image. So I took another image of one of my cameras just to give an idea of what it's like to come back a little bit at 430mm at f8. Obviously it gives a bit more depth in terms of seeing what's in the background as well. We are getting good image sharpness though. We can zoom in right in there. Look at the sharpness there. It looks fantastic. And that's at 100%. So I think it's giving good results. It's just when you're expecting something that might rival a prime, you might be disappointed. It's all about managing your expectations. For a lens that's just over £1,000, you can't really complain with the results you can achieve. For me, the issue is focus speed. Where on mirrorless cameras, newer cameras, if you want to future-proof your equipment and you're looking at getting RF glass in the future, you want to make sure this lens does a good job on your new mirrorless cameras that you may obtain in the future. And that's why I was so disappointed. But when it comes to image quality, I think it's there. And I think the Sigma and the Canon lenses, you know, rival this as well and give you good results. So let's have a look at my last image, which is a bottle of water. And I thought this would be a great test to see how much detail is retained when you actually crop in. And let's zoom in there a little bit. So having a look at that, we're getting good detail. You can see the pattern there in the actual print material. Let's have a look. And there you go. It looks really nice. I think we're getting good results from this lens. I'm going to do a comparison between image quality on the 150 to 600 Tamron and Sigma and the Canon with the 1.4 extender for you guys. If you really want to see the differences, I will show you the differences. But I do think this lens is giving you the sharpness. It's just the focus speed is a problem for me. I'm not happy with this, the focus speed on mirrorless cameras. However, if you've got an old digital SLR, you know, something that's been out in the last 10 years, I think this lens is more than adequate for you and definitely should do a good job for you. But it's up to you to make your mind up whether you like these examples. You know, to me, it's reasonable for a sub £1,000 lens. You're not going to be too disappointed. It'll give you reasonable good results. But I just wanted to give you a rough idea of real world examples. See the detail that you can achieve from this lens. And I hope you found this video informative with me waffling about this lens. You know, obviously I can appreciate it's a bit boring listening to someone like myself talking about you know, the ins and outs of this lens. But I'll just shut up now and I'll do like a show reel of these images so you can have a look with a bit of music. And thanks for listening and taking the time to listen to my thoughts about this lens. And thank you for watching, and I hope you have a pleasant evening.